Finally, God is exposing your son. Your son is. You can't believe what heaven has revealed. Archangel Michael says, pay close attention to what is unfolding. What is hidden in silence cannot remain forever buried. Your son carries something that heaven has decided you must finally see. These are not ordinary words. They carry weight, urgency, and a divine directive meant to pierce through every layer of denial and force open the door of revelation. From the first moment, there is a stillness in the spirit, followed by a sharp stirring that refuses to be ignored. This message is not born out of gossip, nor from human lips trying to whisper scandal. It comes from the higher realm where truth is unshakable, and where no lie can stand before the fire of divine judgment. There is a light shining into the darkness surrounding your son, and that light is uncovering steps, conversations, and movements you never expected to be tied to him. The exposure is not meant to shame but to awaken. Heaven's timing has reached its hour, and silence is no longer an option. Even now, the angelic realm trembles with urgency, calling your spirit to pay attention before it is too late. What you are about to read will demand strength. It will demand that you stay until the very end. Because hidden in these revelations is not only danger, but also an unexpected pathway to redemption, if you have the courage to embrace it. Your son has been carrying burdens and making choices that were veiled from you, yet fully recorded before heaven's eyes. For too long, there have been whispers in the unseen about his connections, the doors he has walked through, and the people he has entangled himself with. Now, heaven says the time of concealment is finished. The revelation comes like a sudden strike of thunder on a quiet night. It is not gradual, and it is not negotiable. It is the hand of God drawing the curtain back and exposing what has been happening behind the closed doors of your son's life. You may feel disbelief rise within you. You may want to turn away and say, "This cannot be him, not my child." But heaven insists, you must face the reality because it is already moving into the open. What was done in secret will not remain hidden much longer. This is why the message carries such weight. It is not an accusation born of human lips, but a warning carved by the fire of divine truth. And as painful as it may feel, the uncovering is also a form of mercy, for knowing the truth in time can still change the outcome. Type Amen if you are ready for the mercy hidden inside this Revelation 444. Archangel Michael's voice continues like a steady force, urging you not to dismiss what is coming next. Your son's path, he says, is not what you thought it was. His actions, his words, and his alignments have carried him into places where danger thrives. Heaven is showing you images, moments where he sat among people whose intentions were not pure. These were not innocent gatherings, nor harmless connections. These were alignments that drew him into the current of shadows, where choices are twisted and hearts are hardened. Even if he thought he was strong enough to resist, the truth is that the web was already designed to trap him. And now, the consequences of his decisions are beginning to unfold. You must know this before it reaches a point of no return. This exposure is not an act of cruelty but a divine rescue. God is stepping in to bring into light what would otherwise grow into destruction. And the words that meet your eyes right now are not random, they are timed by heaven to intersect your spirit in this exact moment. Type Amen for the divine rescue to cover your household. 555. Heaven says your son's footsteps have been recorded not just in the natural but in the spiritual ledger. Every decision leaves a mark, and those marks are now calling for accountability. The covering that once shielded him is lifting, and that is why things are being revealed with such intensity. At night, when the world is silent, the angelic hosts have seen the unrest around him. Conversations that were spoken in private echo loudly in the realm of spirit. Promises he made, actions he attempted, and agreements he entered into are now standing in the light of divine scrutiny. The unsettling truth is this: there is more than one layer to what is being revealed. It is not only about external behavior, but also about the inner battles of his heart. Choices have been influenced by fear, by temptation, and by voices that did not come from heaven. The Father's love is fierce, and that is why the exposure is happening. God is not willing to let your son continue on a path that ends in destruction without first shaking the walls to bring everything into plain sight. Type Amen for divine fire to purify what has been corrupted. 777. The exposure begins slowly, but as the light increases, every hidden layer begins to collapse. The first wave shows the people around your son, those who have smiled in front of you but have drawn him into circles that pull him away from his true path. These alliances are not accidents, they were crafted with intention. Heaven reveals that some of these individuals carry jealousy, manipulation, and dark motives. They saw your son's potential, but instead of guiding him upward, they decided to use his energy for their own gain. What looked like friendship was nothing more than a disguise for control. The second wave reveals his actions: conversations late at night, decisions made under pressure, and risks taken without thought of consequence. These moments were not isolated. They form a pattern, a thread leading to the place he stands now. God's eye has been upon him in every step. Not to condemn him, but to rescue him. For if these things had stayed hidden much longer, the danger awaiting him would have been unbearable for you to witness. Type Amen to declare the rescue of your son's destiny. 888. The third wave of exposure is deeper, it touches his heart. Heaven shows how he has been torn between two worlds, the one of truth you hoped he would walk in, and the one of shadows that tempts him with false promises. The war inside him has left him restless and unstable. He has tried to hide it, even putting on a mask of normalcy around you. But behind closed doors, he has struggled. He has been restless, pacing, unsettled, aware that something is wrong but unable to free himself. The heaviness he carries is not only from his own mistakes, but also from generational currents that have tried to repeat themselves. The same traps that once targeted those before him are now circling back, seeking to ensnare him in a familiar cycle. This is why heaven intervenes now. The exposure is not random, it is part of a higher plan to break the cycle once and for all. Your son cannot carry this secret battle alone anymore. It must come into the light so that deliverance can flow. Type Amen if you believe the cycle is broken today. 999. Archangel Michael says, "Do not let fear consume you." The exposure is painful, but it carries redemption. This is not the end, it is the doorway to a greater beginning. His words fall like fire, both warning and comfort at the same time. For the fourth wave of revelation shows the danger ahead if no action is taken. Heaven reveals how the forces that surround him are escalating. What started as small compromises is now growing into bigger risks, and the pull of destruction is stronger than ever. But there is also a counterforce, a divine hand reaching, waiting, urging for him to be pulled back into safety. The angels are already standing in position, ready to intervene. Yet the moment of choice has arrived, and that is why you have been called to witness this message. You are not only a parent, you are a shield. Your prayers, your awareness, and your faith are the keys that can turn the tide. That is why you are seeing these words at this exact hour, because heaven is enlisting you in the rescue mission. Type Amen to receive the mantle of divine shield for your son. 111. The fifth wave is the heaviest. It shows how your son's decisions could have dragged him toward a place of no return. If God had not stepped in with this revelation, the trap would have already closed around him. The voices in the dark wanted him silenced. They wanted him caught in something that would not only ruin his future but also break your heart beyond repair. The weight of this truth may shake you, but it is important to know, the plot is broken before it could destroy him. Your son's name was already being whispered in spaces where betrayal lives. But now, those whispers are being silenced by heaven's intervention. The same walls that were closing in on him are now being torn down brick by brick. This is why you cannot give up now. This is why you must stand strong. The revelation is not an ending, it is the proof that God has already begun to rescue him before the worst could happen. Type Amen to thank heaven for stepping in just in time. 222. The sixth wave of revelation brings with it a chill, as if the very air around this message carries the echo of what could have been. Heaven shows how your son has walked too close to the edge, unaware of the abyss that awaited him if just one more step was taken in the wrong direction. The unseen realm has watched him enter doors that should never have been opened. Heavenly messengers have stood guard, pulling him back when danger sought to swallow him whole. Without their intervention, he would have already been consumed. The weight of this truth is sobering. Your son has been preserved not by chance, but by a divine hand unwilling to let him be destroyed. The sixth wave uncovers betrayal too. Someone he trusted has not had his best interest at heart. They smiled, they laughed, they promised loyalty, but behind closed lips, their words were different. Heaven reveals the plots, the schemes, the carefully planted traps. But now those traps are empty. What was meant to ensnare him is being reversed. The betrayer's steps are stumbling, while your son is being redirected to stand in the light. Type Amen if you receive this reversal over your son. 333. The seventh wave pierces deeper, beyond the actions and the betrayals, into the very core of his identity. Heaven shows that your son has been wrestling with confusion, questioning himself, struggling to recognize who he truly is. This confusion has opened the door to wrong alignments, and those alignments pulled him further away from his true destiny. But God's plan for him is not erased. No matter how much confusion tried to cover him, the original blueprint of his life is still intact in the throne room of heaven. The exposure is not meant to shame him, it is meant to pull him back into alignment with that blueprint. You may feel the heaviness of this truth pressing against your heart, but know this: confusion is a tool of darkness, not of light. It clouds judgment, it weakens resolve, and it blinds one from seeing the truth. Heaven is removing that fog now. The chains of confusion are breaking, and clarity is being released. The angels assigned to him are already surrounding him, cutting away the bonds that tied him to false identities and false friends. What was meant to steal his future is being dismantled before your very eyes through this message. Type Amen to declare that your son's true identity will shine forth. 444. The eighth wave is striking. It reveals the spiritual warfare that has been raging over your son. Night after night, unseen battles have been fought. Dreams disrupted, rest stolen, peace shattered, because the adversary knew the weight of his calling. Archangel Michael says, "Do not underestimate the war that has been fought over him. His destiny carries weight, and that is why darkness sought to trap him early. But God is not silent. The war is fierce, but heaven's army is greater. Your son's name has been spoken in the courts of heaven. Intercessions have risen for him, and petitions have been made on his behalf. This is why you are seeing this now, because the verdict is shifting in his favor. The exposure, though heavy, is a weapon of deliverance. By pulling these hidden things into the light, the enemy loses his grip. The war is not yet over, but the turning point has come. Type Amen if you believe the turning point has arrived. 555. The ninth wave reveals the future that was at stake. If not for this intervention, the path ahead would have been marked by ruin. Wrong decisions would have locked him in cycles that would strip him of peace, stability, and purpose. You would have watched your son drift into a storm that would feel endless. But heaven says no. The storm has been intercepted. The outcome has shifted. His future is no longer in the enemy's hands, it has been retrieved and placed back into the divine plan. This is the reason for the sudden exposure. Not to harm him, but to redeem him. Not to break him, but to save him before it was too late. Every revelation you are reading is part of heaven's strategy to redirect him, to place him back where he was meant to be all along. The ninth wave is both a warning and a promise. The warning shows what could have been. The promise shows what still can be if faith, intercession, and obedience continue. The choice is here, the hour is now, and heaven has made its move. Type Amen to secure the divine promise for your son's future. 666. The 10th wave reveals something personal to you. Heaven shows that your role as a parent is not passive, it is crucial. Your voice, your covering, your faith has been like a shield even when you did not know it. Every prayer whispered in desperation was not wasted. It stood as a wall when your son could not protect himself. You may feel tired, weary, even drained from battles you didn't choose. But heaven says your strength has carried weight beyond what you see. Without your presence, your son would have fallen deeper. Your endurance has been a lifeline. Now heaven calls you not only to see the exposure but to step boldly into the role of intercessor again. You are being asked to rise with greater authority, because this moment is not the end, it is the beginning of restoration. The angels are ready to partner with your prayers. The moment you declare, the moment you believe, the moment you hold firm, the spiritual realm shifts in his favor. This is your mantle. This is your assignment. This is your calling in this hour. Type Amen if you accept the mantle of intercessor for your son. 777. The 11th wave descends with the weight of unspoken truth. Heaven reveals how your son has been carrying secrets inside himself that even you could not sense. He has been wearing a mask, not out of rebellion, but out of fear of disappointing you. That fear has grown into silence, and silence gave darkness an opening. There are conversations he avoided having with you, choices he hid, and paths he thought you would never discover. Yet what he believed would remain buried has now been brought into the open. The time of shadows is finished. The heavenly records show that his silence was not simply avoidance, it was a cry for help. He felt trapped between the image he thought you wanted to see and the reality of what he had done. The burden grew heavier, and the more he hid, the deeper the web pulled him. But now, exposure has cracked the silence. He will no longer be able to hide, and while that may bring tears, it also brings hope. For only by unveiling what was concealed can healing truly begin. Type Amen to declare the end of hidden silence over your son. 888. The 12th wave strikes with clarity. It exposes the influence of people around him. Heaven shows how carefully they planted ideas, whispered suggestions, and twisted his thoughts. These were not random voices, they were targeted influences sent to draw him further away from his original calling. These individuals cloaked themselves as companions, but their intentions were poisoned. They made promises they could not keep, they encouraged behaviors that weakened him, and they celebrated his mistakes instead of correcting them. They were not friends, they were traps disguised as allies. Your son, still learning discernment, embraced them without realizing the danger. But heaven reveals that their masks are falling off. Their intentions are being laid bare. They cannot hide behind charm anymore because the light is exposing their schemes. This revelation is painful, because it shows how much he trusted the wrong people. But it is also freeing, because he will no longer be entangled by their grip. The cords are snapping, the bonds are breaking, and heaven is pulling him away from those who never cared for his true good. Type Amen to cut away every false alliance from your son. 999. The 13th wave reveals the deeper reason for the battle. Heaven shows that your son is not an ordinary soul, he carries a mantle, a purpose that carries weight in the spiritual realm. That is why the attacks have been so intense, why the attempts to derail him have been relentless. From birth, his destiny was marked. His steps were recorded in heaven's design, and even the adversary knew the impact he would one day carry. That is why the enemy invested so much energy in distracting him early. But God's plan remains unshaken. The exposure is heaven's way of reclaiming what belongs to him. Though your son wandered, though he entertained voices that led him astray, the original plan for his life is still written, and it cannot be erased. This wave is not only about revelation, it is about restoration. Heaven is not only exposing what is wrong, but also announcing what is right. Your son's true calling is being pulled out of hiding and placed back into the open. Type Amen to affirm your son's calling is restored. 111. The 14th wave brings a warning. Heaven reveals the danger that would come if denial takes over. If the truth is ignored, if the exposure is resisted, the enemy would try to tighten the chains again. This is why the message insists on urgency: you must not turn away. The angelic realm warns that there is still a window of time. It is not infinite, and it is not guaranteed forever. The moment is now. The hour is now. Action must be taken while the door of redemption is open. But with the warning comes reassurance. The angels are already fighting. They are already surrounding him, already cutting through the lies, already preparing the ground for transformation. Your son is not alone, and neither are you. This warning does not come to paralyze you, it comes to push you into vigilance. You are being called to stand alert, to guard, to watch, and to pray without ceasing until the full work is complete. Type Amen to declare vigilance over your son's journey. 222. The 15th wave shows redemption unfolding. Heaven reveals a scene where your son begins to wake up from the fog he has been under. He will begin to feel the weight of his mistakes, but instead of it crushing him, it will awaken him. This awakening will not be gentle, it will shake him. But it is the shaking that will cause him to see clearly, to recognize the traps, and to realize how far he strayed. The scales will fall from his eyes, and the truth will pierce his heart. Tears will come, but those tears will not be wasted. They will be the first signs of release, the breaking of chains that held him for too long. Heaven shows that this awakening is not far, it is near, and it is certain. The 15th wave is hope, pure and unshakable. It assures you that exposure is not only painful, it is purposeful. It leads to awakening, and awakening leads to transformation. Type Amen if you believe his awakening is at the door. 333. The 16th wave stretches forward into the future. Heaven shows that once he awakens, once the fog lifts, your son will walk differently. His steps will be cautious, his choices deliberate, and his heart more aligned than ever before. He will no longer be easily swayed by false voices. He will learn discernment through the very pain of his mistakes. What the enemy meant for ruin will become the foundation of his wisdom. Your son will rise, not as one broken forever, but as one rebuilt by grace. He will carry scars, but those scars will not be shame, they will be testimonies. They will remind him of what he survived, and they will remind you of the power of God's intervention. The 16th wave is a vision of hope. It shows the end result of this painful season, a son who is not lost, but found. A son who is not destroyed, but restored. Type Amen to claim restoration for your son. 444. The 17th wave is personal again. It shows how this journey will also change you. Heaven reveals that as your son awakens, your own role will shift. You will move from being a shield in battle to being a guide in recovery. Your words will carry more weight with him than ever before. Your presence will be the anchor that steadies him as he rebuilds. This is not only his journey, it is also yours. The bond between you will be tested, but it will also be strengthened. The moments of anger, fear, and sorrow will give way to deeper understanding, deeper trust, and deeper love. This exposure, though painful now, is carving a bond between you that nothing will be able to break. The 17th wave assures you that you will not lose your son. You will see him return, and you will see him rise. The 18th wave reveals the enemy's final attempt. Heaven shows that as your son begins to turn, resistance will come. Those who once influenced him will not let go easily. They will try to call him back, to guilt him, to entice him again. But their power is already broken. Their influence is already shattered. They will try, but they will fail. The grip they once had is gone, and their voices will no longer carry the same pull. This final attempt will be the proof of his transformation. When he refuses them, when he turns away, it will be the sign that the chains are truly broken. This moment will be the mark of victory. The 18th wave assures you, the battle may end with resistance, but the victory is already written. The end belongs to light, not darkness. The 19th wave reveals celebration. Heaven shows a scene of joy, of angels rejoicing as your son returns to the path meant for him. This is not only a victory for him, but for your entire household. The heaviness you carry now will be replaced by relief. The tears of sorrow will be exchanged for tears of joy. The weight of fear will be lifted, and peace will settle in its place. This celebration is not far, it is closer than you think. Heaven says, hold on just a little longer. The breakthrough is near, and the joy will be greater than the pain you endured. The 19th wave assures you that what began as exposure will end as testimony. You will one day look back on this moment and see it as the turning point that saved him. The 20th wave completes the revelation. Heaven shows the final picture, your son, restored, awake, walking in the light, shielded by divine protection. The storms that once surrounded him are gone. The traps that once targeted him are broken. The darkness that once clouded him is scattered. Archangel Michael declares, the exposure was necessary, the shaking was painful, but the outcome is victory. Do not fear, for your son is not lost, he is being reclaimed. His destiny remains intact, and his story will be one of redemption. This is the conclusion heaven has written. Not destruction, but deliverance. Not loss, but restoration. Not despair, but hope fulfilled. The 20th wave assures you that God has the final word, and that word is victory. Your son's future is secured, his destiny protected, and his journey redirected toward light.